Hi, I'm Eddie Liu, and you're watching The Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press, and today I am happy to be joined by Eddie Liu. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. First off, I have to congratulate you on the season 2 renewal for Kung Fu.
Thank you very much.
I am so happy for the cast and crew. Tell me, what was that group chat like when you first found out the news?
Ecstatic. We were ecstatic. A lot of relief. Personally, for me, it was mostly relief. I think because the year of 2020 was just so exhausting on so many levels for everybody that I don't know if I know what it is to feel like pure joy anymore. Like a lot of it is just extreme emotions. It's like it's a constant swell of anxiety that whether it's positive or negative, it almost feels the same. I can't tell anymore. But it was definitely a lot of relief. Like, we've all worked so hard, the entire production, the crew, everyone involved, overcoming, working through a pandemic. I know we've overcome so many obstacles, so many things that are not sexy to talk about on camera, but we did it. We did the damn thing. And we really believe that we had a product worthy of being renewed, and thankfully that's what happened.
Yeah, like you mentioned, a giant relief. But the unfortunate thing is, you actually wrapped season 1 4 days before the announcement. So I think it's a shame that they couldn't have figured it out 4 days earlier. Oh,
We
you're
would have
wrapped.
loved that
You're
to
coming back for
celebrate
season 2.
together.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
better late than never, of course.
of course.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
I'll take
about
it.
your character, Henry. He's smart. It has viewers wondering, is he a little too smart with something to hide? We've begun
Hmm.
to see some of his past with the juvie record,
Hmm.
old pal Randall, break and enter skills. I know you can't reveal his true intentions, but did it excite you to read the script and know that there could be another dimension to him?
I love that. Yeah, no, it gives you so much as an actor to play. I was already personally really happy with what was given to me from the first one, two episodes. Just knowing that this is a smart guy, he's very capable, and he can take care of himself in the street. Like, he's book smart and he's street smart, and he gets to show it. I was already content with that. And then they actually from early on, I was talking to our showrunners, and some of us, everybody's got secrets. Everybody's got something going on. That's what makes the show so interesting. And uh, they told me Henry's backstory, and talking to the cast, some of us knew that we had secrets, and some of us wanted to know. I think like we were curious, but a lot of us were like, no, for the purpose of the portrayal and the acting and all that stuff, like, don't tell me. I want to find out in real time, almost in as real time as I could. Even though you get the scripts like in a few days in advance or like a week or two in advance, like, you're still finding out very close to when you have to perform it, which adds a different element to your acting.
Have you read any of the theories or speculations of what viewers are saying online about Henry?
I've seen some stuff. Yeah, it's really fun because it means that people care and people are tuned in. I love that we've. I don't know if we've ever left this style of television, but like the fact that fans can formulate theories, that the fact that they're not just sitting back and very passively watching, but they're very actively watching, is very cool. Uh, I will not confirm nor deny this one theory that is like my favorite. I will just say that I will just merely state that I have observed it and I'm very tickled by it, which is that people are adamant that Henry is Jerlan's son, which is
That's a good
hilarious.
one. That's a good one. I
Sure,
think
yeah, sure. Yvonne
another
is kind of
one.
like, what? How? What? Like, I don't think that, again, I'm not confirming nor denying. I just think it's very fun to.
Yeah, I think another one that I've seen online a lot was that he could be a descendant of one of the weapon's other guardian families. So, having that connection and personal motives, something to think about.
Something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Are there any other out there ones? Any like crazy, not just with Henry, but anything out there? I'm just curious what you've seen.
I haven't seen anything too wild beyond that. I think initially when they had the Juvie record come out, there were some other things there. He kind of pulled that back, at least for the time being. What has been your favorite scene so far? Because I think there's been so many good ones already.
Oh wow. There are a lot of scenes that we really enjoy doing, truly. We have a great time as a cast, like, goofing around on set and whatever. There is a scene in our mid-season finale in episode 106, and there's a sibling moment. Are you, how caught up? That's what I would put you on the spot. Like, how caught up are you on the? I was wondering, like, I was like, how much do I need to explain for those who haven't seen it yet?
You can
But there's this
explain. I've seen
great,
up until episode 6, so yeah.
great. So there's a scene where the Shen kids are there with the parents, and then they have to get moving because they have a whole thing that they have to do, that they're on a timeline here, and they're kind of stuck talking to their parents, like they don't know how to get out because they can't tell their parents what's going on with the current situation. And then Henry gets cornered by Mei Li, as a caring mother would, being that he's been spending time with Mei Li's daughter. You know what I mean? So it's like, she's like, "What are you up to? What are you doing? What kind of job are you looking to do?" And that's, I think, a very universal stress that many people have felt. And then there's this witty, funny, very humorous moment where the kids concoct a plan to get us out of that jam, and there's what do we call, wackiness ensues involving some wine and a very obviously very smooth exit between for Henry from that situation.
We'll say
Um,
that Henry was a little slow there to pick up. Usually he's pretty quick, but
he's
he was a
usually a quick
little
guy,
slow
but
there. Yeah.
yeah. So that was definitely one of our favorite scenes. One, because we had everybody. Two, because everybody's comedic timing was on point. It's an action drama. That's kind of how the show is often marketed and sold. But I think for those who haven't seen it yet, it's actually, there's quite a bit of humor uh, throughout the show.
I wanted to talk about episode 5, Sanctuary, because it was so well done with its narrative on racism, Black Lives Matter, and how that impacts a community. When you
Yeah.
first found out what it was centered around, that episode, what were those initial feelings?
It was a combination of things. I think we were really proud to be able to address that on our show, to get into some real life shit. I can't help but read some online feedback, and I know that some people get miffed about mentioning politics in a TV show that's meant for distractions and escaping reality. If you want to hear the business aspect of it, the network and the studio, they came to all their showrunners and said, "Hey, we would love for you to take at least one episode and highlight what's been going on. We're just asking for one. We're not asking you to completely derail your plot and turn it over to this political conversation, which honestly we would have been happy to do if they had." There's so much to address. I think we were looking forward to getting into it a little bit. At the same time, it's honestly, from a creative standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, it's a very daunting task. We all knew that going into it, which was like, you have 42 minutes on the air to tackle racism. What? That's like a near impossible thing. And so it became very important along the way. And Olivia, our lead who plays Nikki, was very on top of it, where she, our showrunners, we all care deeply about what's going on. Last year around June, end of May, early June, we had a producers and cast Zoom meeting, and it was initially intended to be a little reunion, a little catch-up session. We're like, "Hey, how's everybody doing since we shut down in March?" And then we couldn't not talk about what was happening in the span of May to June. All of a sudden, the world started paying attention. We were already paying attention. This is obviously something that's close to all of our hearts. and we talked about it. We had a very like passionate, thorough conversation about it. Thankfully, everyone's on the same page. So fast forward to when we had to do the episode, it's kind of felt like not much time had passed, even though that conversation that we had as a group was last summer. Fast forward to when we had to shoot the episode, it was like, oh yeah, this is still fresh. This is timely and yet timeless simultaneously. And that's the tragic part about all this, is that we, no matter what year you're looking at, especially in modern history, it's the same damn conversation over and over. And so what I'm really proud of is that our showrunners took this angle where it's like, we know Nikki cannot use kung fu to solve racism. That's ridiculous. We know that's not reality. Instead, what we can do is focus on this family in this situation from their angle of it, and how it relates to their personal experience. And that's all we could do. It's one small slice of what's happening. And it's meant to be a platform for further discussions on systemic racism, on anti-Asian racism, how the Black community and the Asian community, especially in the US, have and have not connected. And so that's something that we were proud to highlight and start the conversation on.
I think that it was such an important episode, like you mentioned, timely, but it's also timeless. And I think everyone involved did a phenomenal job, including Bradley Gibson as Joe. I had goosebumps the whole episode. And kudos to the CW for approaching their shows and asking them, can you do this? I think it just fit well with Kung Fu. Like you mentioned, Nikki can't fight it off with Kung Fu. So hopefully there is a bit more of that dialogue later down the road, even though it's not what the show is centered around. But on a lighter note, what upscale burger bar sells milk tea and boba? That I would like to know, because I have never seen it.
I would love for that place to be real. Whenever we're on that set, at that bar, we poke around, we look around a little bit, we look at the decor and like even the menus, the production, the set design, and the overall production and art direction of our show is vivid and beautiful and detailed. There's so much craft and detail that goes into so much of the stuff that I hope that viewers get to see even more of it. Like even the menus, for example, like we were looking at it and looking at the food options and the beverages and the cocktails that you can drink. And, we've said to each other on set, like, I wish this was a real place. Like I would eat here for sure.
Were you and Olivia actually drinking boba walking down the street?
Yeah.
Or was it a
it was
prop?
it was like a homemade boba mix. So I don't know if that's typically what you would get in stores or whatever, but we definitely had like some kind of like tea concoction for sure. I think the ice cubes were fake because that you need a controlled substance. It's because ice melts in real time, and so that's a hard thing to have to keep filling and changing in between takes, because it's like cut, reset, go right away. Especially that night, we had to move fast. Like you're losing daylight during the daytime, and at nighttime you're getting close to when the crew has to leave. So it's a lot of like little details that everybody's in charge of managing. Like even for us, we're like, hey, how much did you have? You got to refill back to this amount. All that unfun stuff that you're not supposed to think about when you're watching the show.
Another great line that episode was said by Tai Ma's character Jin when he shook his head at the thought of chocolate-covered fortune cookies. I thought that was such a clever line by the writers, because it really speaks to the topic of westernizing Asian culture and heritage, and how that's happened a lot more recently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the fact that Tai could say it, like we already know who Tai Ma is, and he is such a legend and such a presence, and to hear those words come out of his mouth, like you feel the reality, you believe it when he says it. There's that hint of both like, oh, like damn, like this stinks, but also like the comedy that he infuses into that line is perfect.
Let's talk about what happened last episode. So Nikki, she goes after Jalan. She finds herself hurt by episode's end. We obviously know from the promos that she survives, she's okay. But tell me about the dynamics moving forward, not only between her and Henry, but her and her family, especially her siblings who knew how kind of dangerous this mission was.
Yeah. Can we get into spoilers? Should we put like an overall spoiler warning for those who haven't okay, so for those who aren't caught up to, like, if you haven't seen episode 6 yet, stop here, come back, then we'll talk. Because I don't want to do anyone the disservice of spoiling. I'm a believer in that. Uh so Nikki's siblings, Althea and Ryan, do know a little bit about what's going on, but a lot of the family doesn't know the full story. They don't know about, they don't really know that much about this murderous woman who, almost killed Nikki. Althea and Ryan do to an extent. They know that, but they don't know the full story. And it it's going to be one of those things where she can only carry the burden so much, and eventually these things pour out onto the family, and it is going to affect the family. You can only, it's like, for example, in superhero stories, they can only conceal their identity so much, or even if they do, the collateral damage is going to hit home eventually. And that's something that we can see. Like, she try as hard as she may, she cannot keep this from affecting those closest to her.
And in terms of the other storylines, what can we expect to see more of, especially since, uh, yeah, we'll put a spoiler disclaimer in the
Yeah,
video, but
yeah.
knowing what Jilan said about Pei Ling, how will that affect Nikki and what she wants to do with this information?
It puts her in a bit of a tailspin. I think she kind of almost doesn't really know what to do with it, in terms of, like, for the past few weeks and months, she has been carrying this mission. Like, what you see go down the first less than 10 minutes of the pilot, that is the through line throughout the story, and certainly the season. It, Everything she lives and breathes comes out of that. Um, she was tasked with the mission to retrieve the sword by her Shifu, like her beloved Shifu, and to hear that revelation, about what Pei Ling did, is a betrayal in a way, because it knocks her off kilter, and she's questioning what her purpose is. But at the same time, she needs to recover straight up. Like, that's something that what she went through at the end of that episode, that's something that everyone would need to take time off from. And Nikki doesn't know how to slow down. She doesn't know how to stop. She only knows one direction, that's forward, and she only knows forward movement. So it's a lot for her to take on and debrief from after the fallout of 106.
As you mentioned, Olivia, your fearless leader, she portrays Nikki so well. You two were friends prior to being on the show, so how has that really helped your interactions on screen?
In all the ways, because Olivia and I really are friends in real life, and we both believe in a positive, fun work environment. We sort of can't help but let that ooze out of our pores when we're on set. We like to have a good time in the crew. It thankfully has a good time with us, and sometimes we feel very, very remorseful that we are blowing takes and keeping them late at night on set, and we feel bad about breaking, and sometimes we just can't help ourselves, because we start to lose our marbles at the 11th hour of production, into going into the 12th hour of the day. Yeah, Olivia and I have been friends for some years now. We met in like 2017. And a lot of the Asian acting community knows each other here. We were in communication during the audition process. Even Shannon as well. Like, we've been friends for years now as well. So to have that connection, to already feel like, to know that you're already friends, already kind of feel a bit like siblings, and then get the job and act as such is really special. And I kind of feel like we already had that ball rolling, and that's why you see that chemistry pop off the screen the way we do. Yeah, no, she's amazing. She's great. She's fun. There's a lot to be said about the importance of how your number one on your call sheet carries themselves and how they set the tone for the rest of the set. And that's what you see happening on our set.
She called you out in a BuzzFeed video for taking a lot of selfies on set. Was that true or false?
I think I take a lot of selfies comparative to the other cast members. Like if you were to compare, somebody's going to have the most. I don't think I actually take that many selfies. It's all relative. So the question was, who is most likely to be caught taking selfies? Most of us said Shannon. But then Olivia pointed out the technicality, which is that Shannon, while she may take selfies, what she predominantly will do and does it the most is she'll hand you her phone and ask you to take a picture of her. So technically, it's the same energy of a selfie, but technically, because you're handing it off, it's no longer a selfie. It's someone take a picture of you. I don't do that as often, so I'm stuck taking my own pictures. So that's how we arrived at that.
So there was a bit of merit there, but I like that you're thinking of it logically. That's true. I would say some people just like other people taking photos like for the full body shots, right? So
yeah,
I
like that too. But sometimes I'm like, I don't have time, and I'm a little either too shy or I can't be bothered asking someone else. I'm just like, I can just take myself, so I'll do it here. And like, it's no fuss, no muss. It doesn't take time out of anyone. So it's no skin off of anyone's back, which is why sometimes I just take especially if it's in a group and I have like a longer arm. So it's out of practicality.
Practicality, that's what that is. Another important kung fu question.
Yeah.
Character playing aside, are you team Henry or team Evan?
I'm team Nikki. You know, because it's like we don't. She's the hero. It's her mission. It's about her. We're both happy both Henry and Evan are happy to help and ready to help. I think that's what's so great about these characters is like they got her back. And actually, now that you're asking the question, we're gonna get to explore that more going forward. You know, the first half of the season, if you will, wasn't really so much about this guy or that guy. It was really more about mission and what she's set out to do all this time. But eventually, because of the circumstances of what's happening, like she's going to eventually need help. We will, at least one of us is ready to be there. So that's something that's going to come to a head quite in the not too distant future. You're going to see that come to a head in a very fun way.
I am already excited to see that. Something I didn't bring up earlier, though, was the fact that Henry and Evan were both at that gala event, and Henry actually tried to stop Nikki from going after Jalan. She didn't listen to him, so she didn't trust him enough. He's kind of trusted her this entire time, so I'm sure that will play into those dynamics. But Offset, you're 100% team Heaven between you and Gavin, I know.
Yeah, we're team Heaven, yeah. Exactly. That's the name in the writers' room. What's funny was at the beginning of the season, we had heard from one of our head writers and producers, I think it was Ryan or was it Joe, our producing director or directing producer as well, had said that the writers' room had split in half between Henry and Evan. And so that like apparently there were like quote unquote fights about it, which is
how do writers fight, right? Through words. They're just trying to ferociously cross off the upcoming scripts, try to write it in differently.
To be a fly in the room on that. I would love to have seen that. And then somebody had pointed out that when you combine Henry and Evan, that the ship name there is Heaven. It's like you could not have planned a better ship name than that. But I'll just tease that we might see a little bit of a Heaven thing happening a little bit in the future.
That would be fun but more screen partners for you, I'm sure, is always fun. And that's because the cast is so close. You get along so well with one another. Was that chemistry instant upon that first read through? I know you knew, like you mentioned, a couple of them ahead of time, but you didn't know John. I'm thinking you didn't know Gavin.
Yeah, like I definitely just met both JP and Gavin on this set, and I'll never forget that first read through. It was in Vancouver. It was last March, right before the the pandemic had really shut everything down and really landed for everybody all together. But the words really came alive. It just kind of goes to show that the sum is greater than its parts. Because we had all read it on our own, and we had enjoyed the pilot and loved the pilot on our own, but to see it come together, it just added so much more of that exciting dramatic element and even the comedic element, seeing these characters really come to life, for sure.
What are some things the cast likes to do together? I know you go to Mama Kang's for
Hmm.
meals. What's your favorite dish that she's made for you all?
She makes some great soup, all different kinds of soup. She makes curry, like vegetarian, uh, uh, like Thai curry. Being Singaporean, there's a lot of access into there's a lot of Southeast Asian um, cuisine, and I wouldn't know the first thing about how to cook it. I know how to order it, but I don't know how to make it myself. So she's done a lot of that. She'll pour us like Singaporean coffee, which is great. And also what's fun is like at night when we're having get-togethers in the evenings, you might not want the caffeine, so she's got decaf too, so it's great. um Eating, that's like our number one thing. We eat together, we drink together, we've gotten boba together for sure. Uh Friday night, it's the weekend, pop over to JP's, and we play a lot of games. um what's that werewolf game? Like you try to figure out who's the werewolf. It's like Mafia, but like instead of like who's the mobster, it's like who's the werewolf. Hate that game. I hate that game so much. But we've gotten to like, oh, there's a Bananagrams as a more recent one that we played where you try to make words with little um Scrabble type of tiles. That's one of our new favorites. Yeah, like I'll bring like a bottle of whiskey over, somebody else is bringing wine, somebody else is bringing cookies. That's and we just chill out. Like especially because we've been in a bubble the whole year. It's just been us. We treat it like an NBA playoff bubble. I think that's the way JP described it.
Hopefully, more of those fun times to come, maybe in the summer. Are you thinking that's when you'll be back?
We have no idea. It's still too early for us to tell, or for us to know, rather. There's so many
Moving
business
parts.
aspects and so many moving parts that it's just like I don't think the audience even cares about that stuff. But I think the rumors that we had heard was maybe like going back sometime in the late summer or fall is when we would start up again.
Well, until then, hopefully lots more video chats with them.
Yeah, exactly. Shannon, Olivia, and I are both in the LA area, so we'll see. Oh, Gavin too. We're all in the LA area, and then Ty's. He's here, but also he's like moving around because he's working, and the rest of them are spread out a little bit. Like Tony and Vanessa are in New York. But yeah, we FaceTime, we get on Zoom together, so it's always fun. We're always connected.
So Henry teaches at the Chinatown Community Center. These
Yeah.
places are so important not only for the social and historical value, but also to bridge generational gaps. So did you have a place like that or people in your life growing up that really instilled those values and the Asian heritage in you?
Yeah, my dad was always talking about that sort of thing, and it fell a little bit upon my young deaf ears, in terms of like I didn't take it to heart enough as a kid. I think I just wanted to be a kid. I didn't, the idea of family stuff and doing responsible things. I wasn't so into it. And of course, as I get older, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what he was talking about. Like I get it now. Because my dad has always been a proud Chinese man. And when I was young, growing up in a white suburban neighborhood, I kind of didn't really care to explore my Chinese identity. In fact, I was almost scared to, or lazy to, or apprehensive about it. I just wanted to be a normal kid, and I wanted to play sports. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I didn't care to explore that side of myself. And now that I've grown, and especially now that I'm working on this show, it's like, I really feel like I want to make up for that lost time. And this show has been able to give me the show has given me the gift of being able to reconnect with my roots, in many ways. The fact that Henry is so rooted in his heritage and so proud of it, it makes me want to be more like that.
And it's always a gift when a project has the ability to do that. You film quite often in Chinatown and Vancouver. You've been by the Millennium Gate, where Harmony Dumplings is situated, the shop owners in the very first episode. Does that affect your and the cast mindset at all, filming on location and, not just in studio?
Yeah, it there's a lot of acting that does not need to happen when you're, in a location. So many things are coming to life for you. You don't have to like, you know, widen your eyes in front of a green screen. That's a lot of it's a lot of bandwidth in the actor brain that shouldn't be expended to that. It should really be about the human to moment, the moment to moment connection between you and like your scene partners, right? Um, the I remember when it wasn't long after the pilot had come out, a friend of mine, he happens to be Chinese American, and he was just like, wow, like how did they get Vancouver Chinatown to look like San Francisco Chinatown? Like it's incredible. I'm like, yeah, well, Vancouver is really good at looking like anywhere in the world or anywhere in the US at least. Um, it's also cool to be in a place like that, both when we're on location in say Chinatown or when we were at the studio and we can fill it with almost all Asian background. And it's like, wow, we actually have this world fleshed out. Like it's not just one family. It's not like the only Asians are just the family and then everything else is not Asian. It's like we've created the world. And that was cool to see from when we started the pilot, and even now it's like, holy crap, look at all these Asians being on set together. Like this is, could we have dreamt this 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
I think it does keep it authentic. And my last kind of kung fu centered question, with your characters, did you get to make any suggestions to the writers or have a say in shaping your characters and their experiences as Asian Americans?
Yeah, from the get-go, like it was only a day or two after I had booked the job, Christina Kim, our showrunner, had called each of us, called myself personally and said, hey, like welcome, all the initial things like welcome, congratulations, we're so happy to have you on board. And I remember her saying that, she goes, hey, I am a Korean American, and yes, I know this is about a Chinese American family, and I want you to feel comfortable and feel free to communicate, like however we can make this more authentic, and however we can capture more specifically the Chinese and Chinese American experience. Like please, like let's talk and let's make that happen. As far as Henry's story, a lot of that was already set. There wasn't really much for me to add. It was really just there was just maybe a few questions along the way in terms of like specifically what about the background, to what extent of the background, how extreme are we talking here, like those sorts of things. Questions about maybe like just when you start out with a brand new character, you want to know just the basics, like who are their family, what are they, where do they live, like what kind of car does he drive? Does he have a car? Like, these are very simple things that are good for me to know, just to keep it back in my mind in case we arrive at that point later on. Sure enough, some of these things we have we do cross at some point. For example, Henry drives a car. It's not a sexy car by any means, but it is very practical and it gets you from A to B. And so I was able to even just ask questions like, why this car? Why well, for one, he's a grad student, so he doesn't make a lot of money. So it's like partly why he drives an older vehicle.
Yeah, I like that it's an open and collaborative process. And then looking at like the characters of Jin and Mei Li as well, I think that would
Yeah,
be important in terms of what they faced as immigrants, or maybe like their parents or their grandparents as well. So
for
it's
sure.
great.
Less suggestion or whatever on my part for Henry, but that's just me. Like for the other characters and what's going on with the food, the decor, the styling, all that stuff, like there is constant, like sometimes we have to just put our consultant or producer brains on, our hats on, and come in and be like, no, it's like this. And that those are ongoing conversations. It's like I don't I think even if it wasn't necessarily a Chinese focused story, even if it was just about say a white or a black or Latino family, like there's always going to be execution aspects when it comes time to lift something off the page and onto the screen, the actors and the producers and everybody standing around, like it's always an ongoing process, regardless of who the show is about.
The dialogue, which is
The
fantastic.
dialogue, yeah, any bit of Chinese that we speak, whatever, like Thai, Kang, they're very on top of it, and we all have to stay on top of it.
I know on social media that you play guitar. How long has music been a passion or hobby of yours?
Um, I started dabbling in guitar. I was like kind of self-taught. Like I tried to teach myself when I was in like seventh grade. I was playing violin from fourth to seventh grade, and for most of those years, I could at least do it with my friends. At least I had friends in the orchestra or whatever. And then sixth grade was the final year that you could do it with your friends, and then seventh grade came, and then at that point, it was one of those things where like, all right, if you want to keep playing, you can play in the chamber orchestra. Like you don't have to actually do it as a class anymore. And then I auditioned for chamber orchestra because I felt like that's what you're supposed to do. And then I look around, like none of my friends are here. Like I know the other people in it, but like my friends are not here. And I did it for like, I don't know, a month maybe, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna say no for once, because at that point I felt like I was kind of being groomed to be a well-behaved, you know, a do-good and overachieving Asian kid. I think was sort of like what was being thrust upon me, or like I see the other kids doing it and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to do that too. But for once I said no, I can quit chamber orchestra. I don't have to do this. I'm not even that good. Like I really wasn't good at violin. I just got in there just because I did well enough at the audition. I quit. um I was like, well, I have always wanted to learn guitar, and my dad was like, all right, if you want to learn, here's mine. Learn the major and the minor chords, learn to switch, and if you still want to play it, like we will talk about getting your guitar. And then thankfully, as a gift, I think it was like a confirmation gift. I was like in seventh grade. They bought me my first guitar. It was a Fender, and I still have that at home in New York. But it's definitely something I'm not good at. It's like I can't play for anybody. It's just for me. Headphones are the most ideal thing so that no one can hear the noise that I'm making. But yeah, I would love to keep dabbling and keep learning. It's always something that I've rock music, learning some fun riffs and licks like on the guitar is something that I'll always circle back around to.
Definitely keep it up, and maybe if you get good enough, if Henry whips up that guitar, I don't know, it might be game over.
Game over, yeah. Like the team Evan who? Like what? No, funny enough, actually, okay, I'm really not good, but all the other guys in our cast can play, are all better than me.
Oh, really?
We have actually a musically talented cast. Shannon and Olivia both have strong dance backgrounds for sure. Shannon did it professionally for years, even up until like say last year. Like she was a cheerleader for the Clippers and then for the Rams for many years. John can play. He has a lovely voice. Olivia has a lovely voice. Shannon can carry a tune. And then Tony was in a band, like worked in the music industry. Gavin can shred on the guitar and on the banjo. Vanessa was a dancer, and she kind of has a strong theater background. Like it's a very musically inclined group. I think we have an inside joke of like, oh, we'll do the musical episode one day.
I was just gonna say musical episode. You could just do a kung fu side band kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the pitch that I'm ready to deliver is that Nikki gets knocked unconscious and then she wakes up with a brain injury, or maybe she's in a coma, or she wakes up with a brain injury where everything sounds like is sung in musical and show tunes.
I don't know if you've seen Legends of Tomorrow, but they've totally gone that route before.
Yeah, they look like they have a really fun time just kind of diving into all kinds of genre. Like what they did, like a Western kind of thing too, right?
Yeah,
And they
they've
time
they've
travel or
appeared
something,
as
right?
puppets before. It's wild.
That sounds like a good time.
I can only imagine what a crossover episode might look like between,
Chaos. It would be chaos. We'd get nothing done. We'd just have fun. We would have too much fun on set.
yeah, CW. We need a crossover of some kind here.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
Yeah, our signature question for you: if you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Does that mean I can be my favorite ice cream flavor, or is like a separate from favorite? I'm gonna pick my current favorite, which is Rocky Road, because it's not for everyone. There are going to be those who just have automatically been like, all right, that's not for me, or they've had it and they know it's not for them. But those who love it, like love it, and they know what they're getting into. They know the detail and the whatever that comes with it, and it is a more a specific thing. I think too many people try to cater to everyone at all times in their real lives and in their products and services. And it's not that it shouldn't be attempted or that it's not something to strive for, but it is really hard to do. But when you know what you're about, and people know what you're about, and they come to you specifically for that thing, or they enjoy you for that specific thing, like that's, I feel like that's a nice balance to achieve. So that's my answer: Rocky Road ice cream.
Great answer. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for taking the time to chat. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chloe. Thank you for having me.
Make sure to catch Eddie in Kung Fu. New episodes air Wednesdays on the CW, and we will see you next time.